Anyway, let's get off the whole Nintendo kick because, well, it's kind of pissing me off that I have
Yeah,
a Wii U and
do you see
nobody
what
else
you did?
does.
You see what you did? You see what you did? You had to talk about Nintendo Direct.
They announced some interesting stuff. I'm excited for Nintendo and I hope they pick up the pace, but honestly, I'm a little let down. But
And
anyway,
that'll all go away as soon as they show off a new Zelda game and actually show the gameplay footage, because then you'll be strutting around like a rooster.
not only that, and once Monster Hunter 3 comes out, I'll be my Nintendo fanboy self again. But anyway, like I said, Nintendo's not doing good. Pick up the shit, Nintendo. Start doing better.
Why don't we just continuing on the theme of consoles? The PS4 controller prototype leak
Yeah,
has been
yeah.
all
Yeah,
over the place.
the early dev kit versions, quote unquote, if they're to believed, they were apparently originally posted on Destructoid. And like we were discussing earlier before the podcast, Wilson, you said it kind of reminds you of the Vita trackpad,
Yeah, exactly.
more so than a touchscreen.
It
Yeah.
doesn't look like a screen at all, to be honest.
It doesn't.
There's no recess in the level of the where the buttons would be, like for the plus or not the plus, the PS button and the start and select. There's no like recess that it's actually showing a screen, and it's pure black. So like I said, it looks more like the Vita touchpad.
I thought that's what I had read, that it was a touchpad and not necessarily a screen.
Which it doesn't really affect me. I mean, it still looks similar to the tried and true PlayStation controller. It hasn't really changed over the past 15 years now.
Yeah, well, they learned their lesson from. We all remember what the original PlayStation 3 controller was
Oh, the
supposed to look
boomerang.
like. Yeah, the boomerang, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, "WTF is that? Get that shit out of our house right now."
Yeah,
And PlayStation, Sony's like, "Okay, focus group, that was bad. Rethink."
and in all honesty, I think the PlayStation controller is a pretty solid controller until the Xbox 360 controller, where they went away from that monster of a controller on the original Xbox. I thought the original Xbox controllers were really uncomfortable, but the Xbox 360 they made some changes that was pretty comfortable. But the PlayStation one has always been comfortable, in my opinion.
I like the PS3 controller. It's just the 360 controller is just my personal favorite. So after going, like, the 360 controller is still a little chubby.
But you know what? The
I don't know.
360 controller is like the perfect evolution of ergonomics in a video game controller.
Yeah, it
It
fits really
feels
comfortable.
right. The buttons are all perfectly placed. I mean, their controller design was just through the roof on that one. They
Those
really did a
fucking
phenomenal
stagger
job.
sticks, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
It's
I
just-
like.
It's awesome.
Yeah, well, honestly, the Wii U controller feels pretty good in your hand too. It's not like uncomfortable. It doesn't feel awkward, but it is substantially wider than the rest of the controllers out there. But and then the
That kind of had a touch screen.
no shit, dumbass. And then the Pro controller for the Wii U is actually really comfortable. It's essentially very similar to the Xbox 360 controller, but the sticks aren't staggered. It's like a nice crossbreed between like the 360 and the PS3 controller.
See, I like the classic controller from the Wii. I always thought that was a nice fit too, and I've got so many different virtual console games that I use that thing for. So it's like
I wish
the
it was, I
cross
wish the
between.
classic controller was a little bit bigger.
Yeah, slightly a little bit bigger for you guys, but I mean, like I have small hands, so for me that was it was perfect. It fit.
He's just a
Fine.
widow guy.
Yeah, well.
But yeah,
it,
no.
it felt a lot like a Super Nintendo controller for me. And that's, the 360 controller just feels like a slightly bigger Super Nintendo controller for me. I don't know what it is, but that's how I picture it. The PlayStation controller, I got used to playing games with that in the PS1 era and the PS2 era, but once I switched over to the 360 and I was pretty much a 360 gamer for 2 years straight, and then started to try to play some PS3 games, I was horrible at them for the first month. I had to get
know what it
myself
is,
back
man?
in the mindset.
For me, it was the triggers, dude. The I don't know. It's because on the PS3 controller, the triggers like they come out instead of going in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know
I'll tell you
exactly what
right
you're
now,
saying.
if you play any first-person shooter on the 360 and then try to play a first-person shooter on the PS3, you will stumble about like
Yeah.
a retard for the first week you are playing that. It just doesn't feel the same at
Yeah,
all.
something about it. Yeah, I'll
like
agree with you.
I just picked up Black Ops a couple months ago for the PS3 instead of playing it on the Xbox, which I did for the past 4 years religiously, and I find myself actually going to press the button to like throw my grenade or shoot, and especially with the L and R2 buttons, I'll find myself hit the trigger and then have my finger just go right off the controller.
Yep,
Like,
we've been ingrained with that just because of how much we played with the 360 controller.
yeah. And
It's finger memory, it's muscle memory.
Yeah, and I actually use a PS3 controller on my PC when I'm playing like Psychonauts the past week, where it's more comfortable with a controller than it is with a mouse and keyboard. And like
You use the PS3 controller or a
yeah.
360?
I use a PS3 controller on my PC.
Blasphemer!
And then like when I was playing Saints Row 3 when I picked that up on the THQ bundle, I was using my my PS3 controller as well with that.
Yeah, my buddy that I played DayZ with, Gonzor, uses a 360 controller to use those controls for piloting a helicopter in DayZ and Wasteland because he finds it easier instead of a keyboard to do that. Personally, I can't see it.
I will never pilot any kind of vehicle such as a helicopter or
Dude,
an airplane.
I would not trust you to drive any type of motorized vehicle in any version of Arma. Okay, I will not get in that vehicle with you.
For the brief time where I actually played Battlefield 3 on Xbox, I'd be like, alright, I'm going to fly a jet. I got in the jet, took off, not 3 seconds later, crash, dead. Getting a little bird with like 3 other people.
Yeah, I don't want to see you trying an Arma. I really don't.
I would lift off and the helicopter would just explode.
The controls for vehicles in DayZ can be so wonky because it's that Arma engine. And the weird things, I mean, you can see some examples of the weird physics in that game, but when you get in a vehicle, holy fuck, do the controls change completely and you see every flaw in the physics engine in Arma. It's ridiculous. ATVs, if you hit the slightest bump in the road, you will go like 100 feet in the air, flipping and doing barrel rolls everywhere, and then land either... One of two scenarios will happen. You'll land and flip and skid until you're completely upside down and half dead, or you'll land perfectly like a cat on 4 wheels and just keep going. It makes no sense. No matter what controller style you use.
Okay, now another thing we want to talk about today is we actually have some new games announced. A couple here. One of the big ones is there's a new Batman Arkham game announced, and I believe you said it was supposed to come out this year, John?
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
What do you mean surprise, surprise? They've had 2 games.
There were rumors
and it's
of
a
the
tried
new one.
and true IP now, so now we're going to see a new Arkham game every year, and it's gonna get milked, and it's gonna turn into a cash cow.
You know what though?
Arkham City came out in 2011.
Arkham City was like 2008, and then City was 2011, and
so
it did sort of get milked with the Wii U version for the Armored Edition, which I heard was actually really bad compared to the other ones. But to be honest, Rocksteady does a fantastic job with those games, and even though it's the same IP from Asylum to City, it still felt fresh. They made a
it was completely fresh. I don't think it was really I mean, it was the same mechanics. It was the same, game. It was an obvious sequel, but I mean, it wasn't like a milked IP like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Assassin's Creed or, I mean, the changes they made were worthy enough to call it a sequel, like for sure. I mean, I don't think there's any debate. I'm sure if they do another one, I mean, innocent until proven guilty for me.
I agree 100%. I mean, I played through Arkham City, like the actual main storyline, which the only gripe with that game is the main story was kind of short.
It was very short.
but there was enough other stuff to do within the game where you still had stuff to play. It's not
Just
like, all right,
like bombing around was awesome.
not only that, you just like getting into, just your brawls in the middle of like right in front of the museum, or like even if you were like gliding around the city and you can pick up on those little conversations that really add to the feeling of the game and the story, and it's really interesting.
I mean, I feel like they're gonna. I feel like with going from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City, they kind of addressed a lot of the complaints that people had, like the closed environments, and they wanted to see more, and they wanted to. I don't know. I feel like they addressed a lot of the complaints, so I feel like a sequel from them, if it's gonna be Rocksteady, I feel like they'll address the complaints that people had, especially with the length of the story, and I felt it was a little crowded with characters.
Yeah, well, one of the big things with Arkham City, or not Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, is that it actually had to follow certain guidelines because that was actually based off the graphic novel. So it did have some guidelines to try to stick by. But at the same time, Arkham City was a whole entity in itself. There was nothing really, no guidelines. They could have went further than what they did with the storyline, but it was still a quality game. It's still, you know, really high up there in standards for me.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I'm excited for a sequel. I mean, the rumors after Arkham City came out was that the next game in the series would be a prequel and
I
would
can
show Batman and the Joker's first encounter.
I can see that. I would really enjoy that. And
I
then
would, yeah, they could. I mean, I'm like I said, man, innocent until proven guilty. I'm excited. I'm interested in another Arkham game.
oh, me too. And I'm a big Deadpool fan, and I know John, you said you weren't interested at all. And the Deadpool game's supposed to come out. There was a rumor in one of the comic books that was kind of a rumor, kind of given some legitness to it, that the game's coming out this summer, and it's based off the same engine as the Arkham games, and that game looks pretty promising to me. I mean, it's not going to be your stealthy action game. It's going to be like a run and gun in your face
Yeah.
version of like a Batman Arkham City. But like I said, I'm a huge Deadpool fan to begin with, so I'm definitely going to be excited for that when that does come out. And it's like
That's more of what it is. I'm just not a Deadpool fan.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Oh, I've always been a big Deadpool fan, and one of the reasons I stopped actually caring about the X-Men franchise movies is because they ruined Deadpool in the Wolverine movie. They absolutely ruined him. But then, what else? Dreamfall had their Kickstarter, and they reached the funding in
Yes.
a really short amount of time.
I think
Like, really
I saw
short.
the news just before we started recording. So I mean, the news was today, but they just started it. I think it was. I mean, my sense of time is just so messed up. It was either this week or last week when they started the Kickstarter.
I think it's this week that they actually
Their
launched the
goal
Kickstarter.
was their goal was 850,000, and they got it. So good for them.
And it's the third one for the Longest Journey games, isn't it?
Yeah, there was two. So
I
this
heard
will
that-
be the third.
I've never played them personally. I've heard always good things about them, and they are on Steam, so maybe I'll pick them up maybe this week or next week.
I played the first one, which is just a straight old school point and click adventure game, and it's really great, but it also has the flaws that those games do. There's a little bit of not necessarily pixel hunting, but there's some like really weird puzzles that I don't know. When I played through it, there were some puzzles where I just like looked up the answer to because I was in it for the story, which is really like the point of playing those games.
Oh
my
yeah,
opinion.
definitely. And then
So I didn't play I own the second one, but I never got around to playing it. So I'll definitely have to get through that.
no, isn't one of the games in that series the Dear Esther or whatever it is?
No, that's
Or is-
not related to the series.
I always see get those ones like mixed up. I think maybe it's the same developer or something. I don't know.
I have no idea. I never played Dear Esther. I don't think it's the same developer.
Maybe it's the same type of game. I really don't know. But that's
Yeah,
another
probably.
game I've looked into before. It looked, like I said, it's got decent reviews and it has a pretty big cult following. So I've kind of been interested in it. But other than that, like I've never really played either of the Longest Journey games, or for that matter, Dear Esther.